transition, though, we've got our college football highlight, and tonight we are talking about the Ohio State Buckeyes, Jordan. Ohio State, this is a really big year for Ohio State, Jordan.
Yes, it
I
is.
mean, all the chips are pretty much on the table here. Is there anything you want to talk about before we get into talking about the roster and some of the breakdown for the roster?
I think the only part of the roster that's kind of the wild, wild west is going to be the quarterback position, just because there's so much talent. We got the transfer that was, kind of the stopgap when we really didn't have anybody else on the roster that looked like a starter, and then Douglas had just kind of stacked up after that. It just kind of, and the Ducks got in line, and the fires got hot in the quarterback room. So I think that's going to be a position to watch. We know what Smith is going to bring. We know what Ibuka is going to bring to the receiver group. We know that we have an unbelievable, safety group. One of the top corners in the league. So all that's going to fall in line. But I'll let you start kind of hammering it down. What do you see right now?
I see a very, very good football team, Jordan. I see it one of the best teams in the country. I see a team that should contend for a national championship, who is the favorite to win the national championship, Jordan. So that's what I see with this team. And you can't convince me that this team, if they don't win a championship, Jordan, this year, to me, it's a letdown. It's not living up to your potential. We're good enough, and we should win a national championship. Will Howard is a good enough quarterback with the pieces around us to win a national championship. Devin Brown, I'm not completely sold on. Everything we've heard has said that he has been really, really good in the offseason program and getting ready for the season. I believe both guys can lead us to a national championship. Julian Sayin from transferred in from Bama. I believe he is the future of the quarterback position at Ohio State. Maybe he's not ready yet. We said earlier in the summer that we thought he would be the starter. It doesn't sound like it's going that way right now. And Aaron Noland is waiting in the wings for a potential opportunity down the line, who is also extremely talented. We have 4 guys competing for one spot, and that spot is to lead a team to a national championship. All the eggs are in one basket. Shout out to Mark Fetters. Mark is a great supporter of the show. I really appreciate all of his interactions.
Yes, we do.
He's a hell of a guy to tail on your bets if you're into that. He's got a great winning percentage. So shout out to Mark. But Jordan, let's take a look at Ohio State's breakdown. There it is. Okay, so obviously Ohio State plays in the Big Ten, Jordan. We call the shoe home. Ryan Day, 56-8 in his career. Our rival is obviously Michigan. Projected to go 12-0, Jordan, this season, first in the Big Ten. Recruiting class-wise, we had the number 5 recruiting class in the country, 23 commits. The number 9 rated transfer class with 7 commits. Top players, this is pretty obvious. Caleb Downs, safety, transfer from Alabama. Unanimously, he's one of the best safeties in the country. If somebody tells you otherwise, they are a quack. Emeka Ibuka, severely hampered last year by injuries, only 41 catches, 515 yards, 4 TDs. But we know for a fact that Emeka Ibuka is a damn good, talented receiver who will be playing in the NFL next year. And then Denzel Burke, one of the best corners in college football, came back for another year. Could have went very high in the NFL draft. Wants to win the Big Ten. Wants to win a national championship. He had 8 passes deflected and 1 pick last year. The reason he only had 1 pick is because they don't target him anymore. He's that good. So 3 superstar players, Jordan. What jumps off the page at you this year?
Oh, it's our secondary, Doug, and you highlighted it in both our safety and our quarter. And it just, I'm pumped because we had a good secondary last year, but we didn't have the communication level that he brings from Alabama, playing safety. So I think that's just, I'm just overly excited to see it. We know what Ibuka brings. We know our wide receiver core is going to get it done, no matter who's slaying the ball this year. But really, it just the secondary pops off the page for me. What about you?
I think the secondary is obviously a massive advantage for this team. But I also look at our running backs, Jordan. We've got Henderson coming back, who's hopefully healthy this year. And then we bring in the transfer, Quinshawn Judkins from Ole Miss, who's one of the best running backs in the country. That legitimately is the best 1-2 punch at running back in the nation. So while we do have absurdly talented receivers, absurdly talented position players, we also have the ability to absolutely punish teams with the running game. I mean, we could literally dominate football games with those two guys. And we also made additions on the O-line that I like. We went out and got Seth McLaughlin from Alabama, who is a damn good center who had one bad game, literally one bad game. And everybody, forgot how good this guy was at his position. And that really solidifies the O-line to me. Donovan Jackson is a guy who's going to play on Sundays. A lot of these guys are super, super talented. It's just, we've got 3 games on the schedule. We've got to win, Jordan. We've got Oregon, who is becoming quickly one of our rivals. We've got Michigan, and then obviously the games in the playoff. Those 2 games plus the playoff, I think the rest is going to handle itself. I don't think anybody else in the Big Ten is good enough to beat us besides Oregon. And I think Michigan's going to be a little bit down this year. Not trying to be biased because I know a lot of Ohio State fans will just rag on that. But I don't think Michigan has the talent to beat us this year.
There's not been a lot of rag on the last few years, Douglas, when it comes to Michigan.
But so, you know how people get.
I know.
They go overboard with it. And then I also have heard a lot of discourse back and forth about JTT. While he is uber talented on the D-line, he is slightly overrated by Ohio State fans. People are talking about him should have been one of the best 100 players in the college football game. Well, I don't think he's really earned it. He's had good individual games every now and then. He had a great game against Penn State, but he's got to consistently get it done every week. It's got to happen against Michigan. It's got to happen in the bowl games. It's got to happen every single week. If you want to be a top-rated defensive lineman like we've had the past with the Bosa brothers, with Chase Young, with some of these other top-level guys, they got it done in the biggest games on the biggest stage every week. So what are your thoughts there, Jordan?
Well, I'm right there with you. JTT, we think about his game where he had the sack and the interception and, the strip sack and the tackle for loss. And that game sticks out. It's kind of his Clowney moment. When Clowney blew up the Michigan player, got the highlight was seen a million times. It'll be seen a million more. So Ohio State fans, they kind of clinged on to that. But like you said, he wasn't doing that consistently. He wasn't getting the big sack, game in and game out. I believe 5 sacks last year, if I'm not mistaken. 5 sacks last year on a team where, it was kind of a down year with the pass rush. So all things considering for Ohio State as a unit defensively, Larry Johnson that's a big focus on the recruiting trail this year as we highlight, week in and week out on the big defensive names we brought in for scholarships. But, 5 sacks when, like you said, you have legends like, the Bosa brothers or Chase Young or even Sam Hubbard, who had double-digit sacks, his last 2 seasons at Ohio State. So I didn't see a complete package, and some of it was because of rotation as well. It looks like at times he wasn't on the field during big moments. So maybe that was, the coaching staff didn't see it either. And when you're not on the field for big-time third downs and you're not on the field, especially when it came to rivalry games, no, you don't deserve to be a top 100 player. I'm not taking anything away from the man as a player or as a position, but it's not top 100 material. This is the year I do think he breaks that ceiling, Douglas, and, makes that name for himself and solidifies him, as a guy who could go round 2 or 3. But, right now it's just not there. The pieces aren't there and the stats aren't there.
Yeah, well said, Jordan. Looking at the schedule, obviously we're going to start with Akron. That's going to be a long game for Akron. Western Michigan, we're going to thump them also. Marshall is going to take it really bad. Michigan State also in trouble. Iowa, that'll be interesting because they always have a good defense. They can't score with us, not a big deal. Then one of the most important games on the schedule we've highlighted multiple times, Jordan, at Oregon. That game's going to be incredible. I cannot wait. Nebraska the following week, I think kind of a trap game. They went out and got one of the best quarterbacks in the country to sign with Nebraska. They will be an interesting team this year. Then we've got Penn State in.
And you can never overlook Penn State just because of the
Right.
importance of the game, and they've always been that top tier 3 team in the Big Ten until we added a couple names this year. Obviously, I think Penn State drops out of that top 3, but they're just a team that you have to be on your A game. You can't overlook Penn State. They're just one of those teams that if you sleep on them, Douglas, that upsets happen on Saturdays, and they're one of those teams that I worry about depending on the first half play.
Nope, I'm totally with you there. Next, we go to Purdue, win, Northwestern, win at Wrigley, which you highlighted, Indiana at home, and then we've got Michigan at home to round out the season. Jordan, the projection is us for Ohio State to go to 12-0. Man, I think we get into the playoff with 11-1 if we end up losing that game to Oregon. But damn, is that going to be a massive, massive game, buddy? So give me 1 second, Jordan. Talk through that. I'll be right back.
No, you're good. And I don't see him losing that game this year. I think we get it done because we've got defense. Being a parent, also, folks, thank you for tuning in and kind of going through that. He's got a young one, but to our fans, I don't see them losing to Oregon this year. I don't think Oregon has the recruiting talent, rolling over from last season to be as competitive in the Big Ten. The Big Ten is more defensive than where Oregon came from, where it was just kind of offenses lighting it up against each other. That was always my complaint, about the Pac-12 or the Pac Conference, whatever you wanted to call it. And that's kind of my biggest complaint about the Big 12 as well. You see a lot of more points in those two divisions than you do in the Big Ten. I think Big Ten produces more defensive players year in and year out. But we'll see. This is going to be a good schedule, folks. It's going to be entertaining. Ohio State has mobility at the quarterback this year, something we didn't really have last year. We had almost a pure pocket passer, and it almost looked like it slowed Ohio State's offense down a little bit. Us bringing in a transfer from the SEC was going to be big for the running back game, and also having a mobile quarterback for ourselves. I think that changes the dynamic of Ohio State this year, and I think they go and they get it done against Oregon because of that. That extra wrinkle in our offense this year of having mobility at the quarterback position is going to be huge. It's something we haven't seen probably since Justin Fields and a little bit before that. So it'll be nice to see that wrinkle thrown back in Ohio State's offense, and having Chip Kelly, I think that's one of the most underrated and not praised enough, coaches that we added. This man could have went and head coach just about anywhere in the country, and he chose to come and run Ohio State solely based on offense. So that's got to scream volumes right now that he's going to come in and really unlock this offense. Ryan Day said, at least openly, he wasn't going to step on Chip Kelly's toes. And make no mistake about it, adding these Pac-12 teams, adding teams like USC and Oregon, you got to have a guy like Chip Kelly that's been in those systems before, knows how to run over those systems. And you add that with what I was highlighting with the Big Ten defense. Big Ten defenses are built a lot different than playing in the Pac-12.
Yeah,
it's more of a grind. It's more physical. It's more in your face. So I think that Oregon loses this game this year, and Douglas, I'm going to worry about it more in year 2 when Oregon gets their recruits and is able to adjust to Big Ten style play. I just don't think they get it done this year.
okay, and I appreciate you for filling that time up and giving us that. Lila needed some assistance in the bathroom, so I am back. This is a family show, so we had to go take care of that. But Jordan, we've hammered home Ohio State. We're going to talk about Ohio State a lot. We cannot wait for Saturdays.
Can't wait.
It's just that time of year is the most perfect time of year. Really excited to get talking about the Buckeyes.